Hey, what's up? This is Flex Wheeler again with another episode of Flex for Life with my co-host Greg. What's up, G? So today we're going to talk about something really interesting: sets and reps. Um, a lot of people feel that just doing maximum few reps works for you. I have the philosophy of high reps. As much weight as you can possibly use, but um, in Europe, they actually did some studies about that, and they came away with some very interesting findings that I think actually backs up some of my thoughts when you talk about the elite level. But great, let's go into it.
Yeah, so we're going to bring up a few studies that have been kind of in the grand scheme of things in the fitness world with the average person again. So we're not taking a prime flex wheeler and saying this is what applies to everybody. Um, but this is kind of things that have this is the established thought process for most people as far as sets per week per muscle group specifically. So these two studies that we're bringing up now kind of go over what the general training population has been using with their clients or recommending. And if you want to put things down very basically, a beginner, so someone who's just starting out, or maybe a couple months worth of experience. So your average gym person, this is, I don't know, would say 60% of the people that are actually in the gyms, because this is doing it consistently per muscle group per week. The science recommends 6 to 12 sets total. So if we're talking about, let's say, just chest, working on your chest, or just working on your shoulders, or just working on your legs, 6 to 12 total sets. This is set relatively low for a number of reasons. First off, they're adapting, right? They're going from inactivity to relatively sporadic activity. So this is something their body has to get used to.
That's about where I'm at right now.
Well,
I'm
you're getting
serious.
back into it after. Well, we're going to throw
Exactly.
another monkey wrench into your system when we start traveling around the world next week.
Yeah, really. I know it sucks.
But yeah, I mean, in your case, if you would have done too much more, you probably would have been. You not would have felt like I would have had to really convince you to get back the next day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you want to do enough to where you're eager and can't wait to get back in the gym instead of destroying your client where they're so sore they're like, I gotta miss today or I'm gonna miss the next week.
Or they find some reason to not come in.
Some reason.
So again, this is where things get a little bit subjective. Intermediate or that next level up. In Flex's case, if we got 2 to 3 months worth of a consistent 6 to 12 sets a week, we could probably bump him up because he's coming from a level of experience. If we're talking about, let's say, your mother or my mother, we probably want a good year of consistently getting into the gym to get those 6 to 12 reps or sets per body part per week. After a year, if she's doing it consistently, the science says you can bump them up to 12 to 16 sets at that point because we're gradually moving up into what we have established as the optimal range of sets.
What is your thought on that? I think, you know, like if we're talking about our parents, then I
Yeah.
guess so, but just an average person, I think that you'd be able to bump it up before a year if they're consistently going in there.
Well, that's if they're consistent. And it
Yeah,
depends.
consistent is the key to all of that.
Right. It depends. You look at their background. If they're a 40-year-old, like I'm in the Bay Area of California, if they're a 40-year-old tech guy that's never exercised a day in their life, feel it out. It's going to be at least 2 months. If I can get them
Oh
coming in
yeah,
consistently for 2 months doing that, then we'll start to play with it.
yeah.
Um,
But a
it
year, that's wow. I
I've
mean,
had some clients where it took that long.
really,
Yeah.
my God. And they were consistently applying themselves, or were they just
Yeah. As
they
far
were
as my
getting
part
at
goes,
it?
because they're paying me a lot of money to not show up. So they showed up, but then I had one client who was very well, all these clients were you've been to that gym, they're very well off. She would polish off a good $100 bottle of wine 2 to 3 nights a week. So that kind of, now, one thing we did not throw in here, the recovery and nutrition process plays a big role in here on their ability to make these sets work. So I'd say at least 2 months, but yeah, with her case, we'll just call her Deb. That's her real name. It took us a good 10 months till I actually started bumping her up a little bit more because it just wasn't consistently following through with everything else. And we'll actually get into that part as well.
Yeah.
But average gym guy or gym girl that you see in the gym on a regular basis, when you go to the gym, you see those same people every time. If you're at that same time of the day, those guys, the research is showing us 16 to 20 total sets per week. And then anything past 20, initially, this is old research, anything past 20, you're seeing diminishing returns. So you might be putting the time in, you're getting some calorie burning, but you're not getting a whole lot of extra growth from that. Now that's,
Disagree.
again, natural, average person working a full-time job, probably has kids.
Yeah.
And their goals aren't where, let's say, mine are, where I plan on my goal is to do an IFBB Pro show next year.
Yeah.
So my goals are completely different from theirs.
Yeah.
My
Or
goals
just the normal generation of youth that goes in, they might not be in there to compete, but they are in there to achieve a look.
Yeah.
Hence their mind frame and their dedication and their drive is going to very much so exceed that of that normal high level that you were just talking about.
Right. And their goals are different, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about this last time. There's even in women, their concept of what they consider in shape, they're what they consider tone these days. 20 years ago, those same generation girls would have thought they're too big, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's all changed a little bit. And that's where this new research is actually extremely exciting to a certain extent. It's actually very intriguing to me because it's things I've thought about over the last couple of years. But yeah, let's ready to pull that one up. So just to put this into perspective, it was done in Europe, but it was peer-reviewed, published research in the American College of Sports Medicine journals. So ACSM, for those of us from my world, that is highly, highly respectable on the research side of things. Now, what these guys did, now Flex, if you're ready for this one gets, even when I went over these numbers with you the first time, that one even blew your mind on the volume. So this is
definitely
3 groups. These are all trained individuals. So people coming with years of experience working out. They take this stuff seriously. They look specifically at training quad muscle. So they didn't care about anything else. Did measurements with ultrasounds and actually 3 different spots on the thigh initially. 3 different groups are broken into. One was called the low volume group. They performed 22 sets per week per body part total. The 3 exercises that were performed were squats, leg presses, and leg extensions. I didn't get I think it was actually different depending on the person as far as sets or reps go per set, but that's the number of sets, and they worked towards 2 reps in reserve. So they could not do, just to put that in perspective, they did a weight to where they could maybe force out 2 more bad form ones, but that's about it.
Yeah,
so they stopped at good form, right? That was the low volume. That's above where we actually put the regular people in advanced, right?
Right.
Medium volume. They also started 22 sets per week. Every 2 weeks, they added 4 total sets to the program, right? Over the span of 12 weeks, where the program is 12 weeks long, they ended up with a total of 42 working sets per week for the muscle group. Now that's working sets. So we're not even talking about warm-ups at this point. And you and I have to do a lot more warm-ups at our age than we used to.
Definitely.
Now the average for the 12 weeks was 32 sets though. So they did an average of 32 sets per week for the 12-week program. Now we're getting into the high group. And this is the one that made Flex's eyeballs bug. They also started at 22 sets per week. Every 2 weeks, they added 6 total sets until they got all the way up to 52 sets per week for just their quads. Now, they averaged 38 total sets per week over the 12-week period of time. Now, results. We'll just keep it nice and simple. The high volume group had more growth and thickness in the quads and also tested stronger in 1 rep max squat strength at the end of the program.
I mean, it's kind of like we talked about, I think it was last week when we were discussing this, just the body can adapt. It can adapt. I use that analogy that, you look at weightlifters in prison. They normally only train upper body or, sprinters or Olympic skaters or Olympic cyclists. They only do that just over and over and over, and their leg development is absolutely just a rate, just absolutely amazing. So it's interesting because and what I said also is I don't feel that the body can be overtrained. I just don't. If you're getting proper rest and proper nutrition. So you look at the last group, anybody in their cognizant mind would think, oh my God, that's overtraining. But it wasn't. Look at the results that they actually got. So I think that just kind of refines just my whole thought process of you can't overtrain a body if it's getting proper rest and nutrition and doing the same muscle group over and over and over where people say that's not going to work is proven to work.
Well, just to put your idea into perspective, this next picture coming up is an Olympic weightlifter. This is Liu Xiaojun. He is considered the GOAT of Olympic weightlifting. All they do are squats, deadlifts, presses, basically barbell stuff from the floor. And right there, you can kind of see how lean he is, but you can kind of see the size of his quads.
That's crazy, dude. All the way up to his hip. Yeah, you can see. That's crazy.
I mean, this is how big Olympic weightlifting is in other countries. He has his own shoe, like Michael Jordan, for weightlifting. But yeah, I would not say that the amount of volume he's putting on squats is hurting his leg development at all.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy. But
now, just to put a little bit more in perspective on that study, you talked about nutrition and recovery. They did monitor that like a prison almost. I mean, they had a registered dietitian that monitored the nutrition of these guys and gals to the point where they had to get full write-ups daily about how they prepared their food, how much was in their food, what their food was, to the point where he or she, whoever the RD was, required them to send pictures of what it was. So
sounds
it was
like our program.
And again, these guys, anyone who's going to do this or volunteer for this type of study, they probably have a little bit different of a goal in mind towards the end. And this is obviously 52 sets a week is not something I'm going to put my mom through on squats.
No, but it proves that we have no barrier when you put your mind to it. It's just the body is limitless if the mind is willing to go there. Where a lot of people just feel that you can overtrain, that you can't do the same muscle groups repetitively, over and over and over. It's going to stunt its growth, and it proves that a lot of people will think, oh, I need to change my exercise. I'm getting stale or I hit a wall. No, if your intensity changes, that wall moves because you push through it. It doesn't have to be that. And the same thing that, in boxing, a jab is a jab. It's the same in Golden Glove as it is at a professional, level. It's just you're refining that jab over and over. Or like Bruce Lee said, I fear not the man who practices 1,000 kicks. I fear the man who practices one kick 1,000 times. So you just master that. Yeah. I'm happy to hear that because I've always had that mind frame, and it kind of just rebacks that up.
Right. And this is I know they said they did say they cautioned taking this too far. This is good results, but they cautioned to go too far with it because it did look just at quadricep development, and they said further research is required. So yeah, I mean, why not find the funding to do this with chest or back or hamstrings or anything else, right?
Yeah.
But then the questions kind of come into play again with regular people, even ones who want to look like a certain way on the beach. 52 sets of a work per body part per workout. That's how long would that take, you think?
Yeah.
3 hours, 4 hours?
It would take at least over 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I did chest today. I think I did about 20 sets, and that took me about an hour and 45 minutes because I was talking.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, what's your break look like?
They're anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half, but then everybody talks. That's the one part. Like, I know I could have gotten done quicker if I didn't talk to anybody, but then I look more rude than I normally do. But yeah, I mean, if you had, let's say, your own gym, let's say if you're rich enough and lucky enough to be Bumstead and have your own garage with a full gym, Different situation. Again, that's what he does for a living, work out. So
Yeah.
situation. But if you had a guy or gal that works 40 hours a week, not
Yeah.
as like realistic. But this is kind of where I put it into my thought process. Let me get your thoughts on this. So post workout muscle protein synthesis is elevated for, and these are the studies, and this is, your workout stimulate with nutrition stimulates muscle growth on average with resistance exercise and the proper protein intake lasts, most studies say, 36 to 48 hours post workout. So let's say I did my chest workout today, which is Tuesday. It should last anywhere from the next, through tomorrow, maybe into the midday on Thursday. At that point, then things start to slow down and it's not growing like it did before. So what if I said, let's say if my chest was something, or in this case, quads, because that was what the research said. That's something you want to bring up because you're moving from men's physique into classic physique and you need to have that sweep. So is this a situation where you break those 52 sets down? It said weekly sets, not in per workout, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you can break down into 2 days a week? So now it's not the Mike Menser way of hitting your, or Platts blasting your quads. You don't even hit them again for 2 weeks. We
Yeah.
know through science you're leaving some muscle growth possibly on the table. Now, Platts genetic freak, so we can't really count him as a scientific
Exactly.
level anyway.
Exactly.
But the
Exactly.
average
That's
guy or the normal physique competitor that needs to bring up their quads, maybe hitting them 2 or 3 days a week, but splitting those 52 sets up over those days because you do have to go to work, or you're studying for school and you got finals coming, or you have kids, or all of the above.
yeah. No, it sounds like that extreme group were just dedicated and they really didn't have to work. That was what they're focused on. So yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about average people. We're talking about people where their parents that have jobs, that have things to do after work. This doesn't apply to them. But to somebody who's really driven and they have the opportunity and they have the goal to do this, and I think it's just limitless. Again, if you feed the body and give it proper rest, I don't think we're even aware of what's possible. I mean, you look at bodybuilders, back in my time, yeah, you had Ronnie who was ahead of his time as far as muscularity and size and everything and separation. But, we're getting into a world now where there's a lot of people with that, not fully at all with that size separation and leanness, but carrying that type of size, just we'll go back in Arnold's days, he was a mass monster. You got people at a national level now that were bigger than Arnold are, so it's just, but back then with Arnold's days, that was just the monster, right? Lou Ferrigno, I think, was overall the
Oh,
biggest competitor, and they probably thought back then it's not possible to push that limit. Then we had Dorian, right, who changed that whole perspective and pushed that limit. And we really didn't think that that was going to be, beatable. But then we had a Ronnie come along. Now, hey, it's been a while since Ronnie retired. We haven't had somebody come and push that envelope. I mean, we got like Nick Walker who walks around with, amazing size, and we got some of the
well, maybe
smaller
Rami
guys.
still around.
Huh?
Maybe Rami before he disappeared.
Yeah, but like I said, don't get me wrong. None of them had his full combination of size,
Oh,
condition, separation, and all that. But just more athletes who are a lot bigger than we were back then. So we still just don't know what the human limit is. It's just continue to be, pushed on, more and more. So
well, yeah. I mean, remember when strongman, the top strongman, like half tour, I think he deadlifted almost 1,100 pounds,
yeah,
and
I
for a
don't
while
think
that
that.
wasn't even thought possible.
Yeah, I don't think nobody beat that yet, have they?
I think there's been a few 1,000 pounders, but even saying that, just like for how many decades was a 4 minute mile just untouchable? Now they're destroying that number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, you do have just in every sport that comes along, and they're just a genetic freak, and they just break all barriers and beliefs and understandings. Usain Bolt, the record before him, how long it stood, and then he just came and just blasted. And still, how long has he been retired? You know, before he retired, he was beat, but his record was never broken, and it's still not broken. You got, Flojo. I think it's over 20 years her record have stood the test of time, and it still hasn't been touched. So
Usain Bolt still holds the record.
yeah, and I know,
2009, he said it.
dude, and it still stands. And you go back even how long has it been since Flojo retired and broke her record in the 100 yard dash?
1988.
Dude, 1988, and no one's came close. So
Here's the crazy part. I mean, this tells you her genetic freakness. Usain Bolt's obviously just it's even a hundredth of a second is a crazy amount of time difference, but he
sure.
set the 200-meter record at 19.19 seconds. Flojo's at 21.34.
Yeah.
So that's crazy too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, we've had 3 different presidents since even he set the record.
yeah.
And her, I mean, we're going back to Reagan.
Absolutely crazy. So again, we just don't know what the human capability is. And every once in a while, we get a glimpse of a freak that comes along and just completely breaks all science, understanding, and beliefs of what they can do. And everybody else trails behind that. So that's kind of where I pull from I just don't think the human body can be overtrained. You have someone who's a freak who comes along and just blasts at that. Look at Ronnie. I mean, not only was he incredibly strong, but his work ethics, you couldn't do nothing about that. I mean,
Did
the
you ever
guy
see,
just,
personally, did you ever see him complaining about the food side of things or
oh
anything
no,
else? Or
absolutely
does it
never.
always seem
Absolutely never. He completely enjoyed it. Worked full time as a police officer, still ate his diet food. And, even on off season when, I'd go and visit him, he just didn't break his diet. He would eat more steak or something like that, but he would never go to like a pizza or a hamburger. He just stayed on that. I mean, those type of people like, Stan Efferding, he just still to this day, he
still?
just doesn't. No, he just doesn't. I mean, we go and eat and he's eating the same food and still just drinking water. He won't have a soda or lemonade or anything like that. And I look at him and it just like, it just puts me in my place, of just my discipline versus theirs. And they don't look at it as discipline. Their whole mindset set has changed where no, this is normal.
How old
It's
is
not
Stan now?
about dieting. Huh?
How old is Stan now?
What am I? I'm 60, so Stan got to be like 55, 56, 57.
That's something to take into account. Also, how he looks at his age too.
And he doesn't train that much anymore. His thing is, and he laughs about it, he goes, I play pickleball all day. I mean,
He plays pickleball.
that's what he does, man. He plays pickleball. He moved to Samoa, and that's where he lives now with his family. But he goes, man, I'm just on my go-kart and I play pickleball all day. So, but yeah, just some people's mindset of how they can change it to where it's their normal and
No.
it doesn't phase them because it's normal to them.
Well, I remember Kevin telling me the story about how he got Ronnie to drink some vodka one time. It was
Yeah.
like totally out of care. Like he didn't know he was, or he just did not feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah. He was drinking coffee and vodka. And Ronnie had went to his room and asked him, like, man, how are you doing this? And Kevin, like, sit down, let's talk. Next thing you know, it's like, I have another cup, have another cup. And Ronnie woke up the next day and he was dry as hell. But, I talked about that a long time ago, but that was one of Kevin's secret of drying out is drinking alcohol.
Was it?
And oh yeah, he was if I'm not mistaken and not being disrespectful, he considered himself an alcoholic back then because of the way he drank. And I remember he'd drink on a plane. We're flying to another country. He would drink on a plane. We check into the hotel. He'd immediately go to the bar and just hang out at the bar and just drink, and he said that was one of his greatest secrets of getting dry and drying out,
Was it
so
diuretic?
it is truly that. But I was just watching a video of Kevin the other day where he said he just mastered all of it. He mastered the training. He mastered the diet. He mastered the mental mindset. Yeah, where other people complain or get upset about that, he just enjoyed it and just fully embraced it. Where I that's just something that I couldn't do now. Yeah, I had a lot of mental issues that I understand now that I didn't really understand then, but still, but at the end of the day, I've always said it. What happens happens, and I believe it was meant to happen. Within our power. So
It's funny we brought up Kevin on this one because I remember at the year we had the Flex Wheeler Classic in Minnesota, we did that panel,
yeah,
and Kevin and Dave Palumbo were on there, and they're answering some questions. And I think the question came up about how, if you have a lagging body part, how do you handle that? And Dave had just gone over more of the contemporary approach about training, about how don't overdo it. And I think he was always a 1 day a week type of guy per body part. And Kevin kind of threw in there, well, if something's lagging a little bit, I add some volume on it, I hit it a second time a week.
yeah. No,
And
that
so
was his
that kind of
thing.
fits right into what we're talking about.
Yeah, I remember there's times where he said he just did legs all week long to try to bring his legs up. And again, obviously, Kevin is just an absolute freak of nature.
Right.
As a bodybuilder, as an athlete, he purely could have played, football with his speed and everything like that. But no, I just think, again, certain people's mental, fortitude just enable them to do things that mere mortals just can't do. So
Well,
yeah.
what do you think of the app? I mean, for me, the application here is, and you gave me a compliment last week. We were going over the deficit stuff when my thing was the last couple months was to bring up my hamstrings, and it looks like the volume thing might have worked out for me there.
Yeah. You know, here's my overall, takeaway from this conversation is you need to find what works for you. Simple as that. And things that work for other people may not work for you. It might be damaging, traumatizing, or just not mentally or physically possible. That old saying, you need to stay in your lane. Don't get caught up in what somebody else is doing.
Hmm.
Try things out. If you're a beginner, and still, even if you're, a professional, try things out, find what's comfortable for you, and then push it. Continue just pushing it, just mentally. Continue just, pushing it over and over and over. But that old thing, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. No, not in this situation. You need to find out what works for you and be happy and content and stay within those limits, or else something's going to happen, and chances are either mentally you're going to break, or physically the body's going to break or have a tear.
Well, I guess this is a good segue to go into how we can help with this situation. Um, Down at the bottom, that's a page you can go to you'll see a video from Flex right off the bat when you go there. But we do have online coaching programs that deal with everything we just talked about. So modification of programs based on what works, starts working for you, what hasn't worked for you. It's a monthly program where you check in almost daily, actually, but we take that information and make changes as needed. It also addresses nutrition, rest, which is all things that you actually log in, as well as stress situations that we help alleviate. And that's something that Flex, with a little bit of help from me, has put a lot of time into getting this program together.
Not to mention health, and what's your ultimate goal, what's your I mean, it's a very in detailed questionnaire that you got to fill out at the beginning, and you have to be honest. Like if it asks you, do you like bacon, don't answer oh no, because I know bacon isn't good for you. Answer it yes, because that helps us to understand what type of body type you have, and to be able to adjust foods accordingly. But so go check it out, flexwheelernation.com. Just give it a try. If you're one of those people who just don't know what to do or want to learn more about what to do, this is the perfect program for you. Go give it a look. But
And take
other
advantage
than
of all
that,
the knowledge we bring onto it.
100%. Other than that, that's another episode of Flex for Life. My co-host Greg. Again, please like, subscribe, follow, comment to help our algorithm. And as I said on some of the other videos, ask us some questions. If you have any ideas on a topic that you want us to talk about, put it into the questions, and we'll definitely take a look at it and probably be able to get that to happen. Other than that, until next time, we'll see you. We're out.